being a writer was the very first thing that I ever wanted to be. अगर आप मेरे बचपन के slam books देखो, so उसमें you know what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like writer, journalist, author, like some combination thereof. मैं तो मस्ती करती book में. Can I be honest? I did everything that my editor let me do, and what he didn't let me do, I still did it. So yeah, that was fun. You know the meme loss?
Meme loss, what's that?
I don't even know how to explain it to you, but in another way, do you know Saddam Hussein hiding spot? Which is also a meme. Oh wow. आजकल मैं देखती हूँ 2016
yes. 2026 is the new 2016.
Yeah.
Everybody had just collectively decided.
I don't think so. मतलब आप मुझे ऑनलाइन बता रहे हो कि आप ऑफलाइन जा रहे हो और आप हर हफ्ते डॉक्यूमेंट कर रहे हो
Yes.
और एक घंटे का आप ब्लॉग बना रहे हो कि
Yes.
मैं ऑफलाइन जा रहा हूँ तो तुम्हारा स्क्रीन टाइम तो मेरी स्क्रीन टाइम से ज़्यादा
Hi Riya, it's so nice to have you here. I have been watching you talk about internet and the internet culture on the internet for a very long time. And now that your book is out, how is it feeling? How is this new regime of going to book tours and literature festival? How is all of this treating you?
It's very exciting. And like you said, everything I've made so far has been on the internet. So even the experience of holding something I've made physically is very new and is very lovely. It's being a writer was the very first thing that I ever wanted to be. अगर आप मेरे बचपन के slam books देखो, so उसमें you know what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like writer, journalist, author, like some combination thereof,
lovely.
depending on you know whatever was grasping my interest at that point of time. So to actually get to do that is surreal because what you wanted to be as a child is like astronaut or something
Yeah.
like that. So to actually do that for me, it's crazy. And now, like you said, the physical experience of that, people walking up to me and saying or coming up to me with the copy. मेरा एक mental radar बन गया. मेरे को ना ऐसे दिख जाती है दूर से जब कोई copy लेके चल रहा होता है, घूम रहा होता है. Especially now that we are here at JLF, like I can see people buy it and carry it around, and they know I'm here. So people have come up looking for me to sign it, and it's crazy. I am signing every copy I can get my hands on, even if I can't get my hands on it. मैं जाके ढूंढ के पकड़ के sign कर रही हूँ उसको. I'm having such a good time. It's surreal in a very nice way.
Oh, lovely. Okay, I will start by talking about the cover of the book. I remember you also posted it somewhere talking that you find it very fascinating how different people perceive this neon green color that you have chosen.
Yeah.
So for some people, it's Charlie XCX Brad
Brad
coded,
reference,
and
yeah.
for some, it's Rehna Tu, and different people are perceiving it in different
Yeah.
lens. For me, it's Charlie XCX Brad. I want to know what was your decision when you went with this color. What does this mean to you?
I can talk about the color specifically and then the broader cover also. The color for me started with Brat.
Oh,
and
lovely.
it's funny because the year Brat came out, uske na January mein, every year I have my birthday in January, which is the new year for me. So it's not 1st January, it's 16 January. So that year I randomly decided that green is now my color of the year. And I started buying green stuff. If you look at my suitcases that I carry now, like I have a green stuff that I'm carrying around everywhere, like luggage, handbag, all of that. And I've liked nature symbols, so green, leaf green has always been a very soothing color for me. And then Brad came out that year, and that album resonated so much with me because not just the music, which I enjoyed, and the lyricism and the experimental vibe throughout it, then the remixes also are so good. Girls So
was so
Confusing
good,
featuring
yes.
Lord is so good.
Yes.
But also I think the story behind it, which is that Charlie for years has been making poppy music. She had this big breakout hit, I Don't Care, which is what we've all heard, and that's stuff that was selling but not what she wanted to make. This is what she wanted to make, and
Brad was iconic.
yeah, and it's so good, and you can tell that the cover is a thwarting of what covers are supposed to be, because when women make something, it sells more if you put your face on the cover and you look good. So to shed that and be like, this is just a color and a grainy font and that's all you get. And then I love that, right? Brad Summer was so lovely. I knew I wanted an element of green because I signed my book deal later that year. So I was still in my green phase, and I still am. Like now I think forever I will be in the green phase. I bounced around the idea of doing an entirely green cover and then just never logged out in the Bratty way, but that would have been too derivative. And I wanted originality and I wanted more arts referencing combined with social media. So what eventually we ended up going with is Michelangelo's creation, which is on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, which I think is a beautiful metaphor for the way mankind was made. It's the biblical story, which is what my book also starts with. But the painting itself, if you notice clearly, it's God reaching out, and we can put the painting here. And Adam's sort of like, his hand is a little away, so he can make that connection. He can complete the act of creation, but is he going to do it? Which I think is a lovely hesitancy that I think the internet of our early years also had, like kya hum kitna kare internet pe, how much online do I want to be, versus now when we are entirely online. And then of course it is the act of creation, so we had created in the subtitles, so I like the interplay of that. So then the green became a green screen sort of thing on the Instagram posts which I have. And we decided to go with a very hand scribbled sort of aesthetic. So it's a white papery background, and लगता है ऐसे ink pencils के ऊपर किसने scribble करके title वगैरह लिख दिया है. And then it's very hand drawn because I wanted that childlikeness or sketchness of that to come about, because I think the whole thing is about, the whole book is about making us and making ourselves and making the internet, and then in the internet making us. So it's a very makey cover.
Yes, I love the introduction where, you're writing that, and then he said, let there be internet. It's so beautiful, sits so well with the cover of the book.
I think I thought of that a long time ago. Before
That was very
I even
iconic,
started.
honestly.
It's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference also, which I think some people are getting. But then even if you don't get it, I think it's funny, right? And it segues into the first chapter very well, which is about usernames. मैं तो मस्ती करती book में. Can I be honest? I did everything that my editor let me do, and what he didn't let me do, I still did it. So yeah, that was fun.
Okay, I want to ask you, Ria. I know a lot of my friends who are writers, but they are forced to start creating content on the internet because that is the most organic way for them to gather an audience. And it's very interesting, aaj ki date pe, if you do not want to be a content creator, but just a writer, it's very difficult for you to sell your books.
Yeah.
And it comes with its different ways that, if you are a content creator and then you are publishing a book, people sort of do not take you seriously. They put you into this quote unquote influencer book category that, ab to ye influencer books mein hai. The books might not be taken seriously. How do you perceive this way of how, writers have to sell themselves first on internet and then the book itself?
I think I can talk about this from the perspective of a writer, but also someone who talks about internet culture. I think the question is best addressed to publishing executives, because they're the ones who are eventually making that offer to content creators who are not even writers, right? So there's a reason why that happens. There's a reason why famous people in general get book deals, right? Ex-presidents, ex-actresses. If you have people interested in you, your book will do well. And the publishing industry is so financially in upheaval all the time that a guarantee of a book doing well is a very attractive thing for any publishing house. And I see the point, right? They need money to run. Publishing houses often take a lot of chances on a lot of debut authors. So one breakout hit in a year can also fund like a lot of other authors. Like that earning is going to go to like 3 other people's advances. So I see the point, and that is how the industry works. I've been having a lot of conversations with authors now who are like, our marketing is making us, make reels. And maybe for me it's natural because I've been on the internet my whole life. So I've been posting exactly like this always, even when I didn't have whatever number of followers I have now. So it's been a nice segue because I was already putting myself out there. So I didn't have to force myself to market the book in a way that felt unnatural to me. And obviously having a readership means you can then use that to get a better deal for yourself, to say that people will buy my book and I'm a marketable writer. Thankfully, a lot of my audience is writers because I was posting a lot of my writing, and that's how my audience came to me. That means that these are people who are excited about the book and who want to read it. Sometimes for content creators who write books, your audience might not be a reading audience. So that's always, an interplay you have to make. But this idea of books being dismissed as influencer books, I mean, I see that happening to other people. I don't know how you can or cannot stop people from having that impression of you. Like, I touch upon art and the internet a little bit in my book, I think, and I speak a lot about that. I mean, I create, but I create about the exact same things that I write about. So for me, the knowledge cycle is complete there. The writer, like I said, writing is the first thing I ever wanted to do, and I've been doing it for years. So I think I was thankfully able to prove like the value of my writing through the book and all the writing I've been doing before that. इतना मुझे लगता है वैसे ये debate का कोई वो नहीं है. It's obviously creators also want to write. I don't
Of
fault
course.
them. Social
Of
media
course, of
is a volatile market,
Yeah.
and you will take whatever opportunity you can get to diversify your income. So if a book is that, and if a publishing house is giving you a book deal, that is also fine. How people perceive you, it's okay. Like
That is a great point. Honestly, I loved how you did the entire marketing with your book. How, slowly you were telling that there's something coming up, and then you
Yeah.
were dropping in some Easter eggs here and there,
Yeah.
and then you dropped your book.
Yeah.
That was amazing how you did that. But it's very interesting. I know so many of my friends who are writers,
Yeah.
who are writing great, great work, but
Yeah.
उनको content नहीं बनाना है. Maybe
Yeah.
वो
I
जिस भी
respect
perceptions
that
आ रहे हैं.
so
Yes.
much. Yeah.
But how do you think that कि ये market में कितना affect कर रहा है for new readers who want to discover new things and the same way for writers as well?
See, there's a lot of writers who are not even on social media.
Yeah.
And journalists specifically, I feel, who've been covering one theme for a very long time. That's another way to make your name in this space and then to go on to write a book about that. So there's various ways to arrive at having a readership of your book. But I think even for people who are not on social media, the value of your book and your quality of writing is still there. Like agents do look for that first. You're easier to market if you have an audience. I'm not denying that. And that's very, very clearly there. But a lot of writing is still being published from people who are like private accounts or who don't want to make too many public appearances. And as long as you have the right book and the right hook and the right quality of writing, I think there's room to sell also. You will have to talk about your work. Like that's there, right? You can't put a book out just
Exactly.
एक announcement और
Yeah.
अब वो अपने आप नहीं बिकती है तो अब मुझे भी realize हो रहा है.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to do that, say through offline mediums, like do the LitFest circle or do like events, something like that, then I don't think the social media side is that overly necessary. There are comedians, for instance, who write a book and then go on a comedy tour with that. So I think that's one way of marketing. But yeah, देखो अगर sell करनी है तो there has to be a way to get out there. Content creators just come with an inbuilt getting out there built into their work. So that is there. I think I am thankfully at a bridge where I get to use my content to amplify my book, but the book is the work, like I've been staying away from making reels about ये है book में या ये है book में because I feel like the depth that's here can't come out through that. But it's a nice way to create interest, like you said, the Easter egging,
Yeah.
the peeking. People are like, oh, I've liked her reels, so let me also take a look at her book. And I've been glad because a lot of people have come up to me and said that, I don't normally read, but I'm reading yours.
That is so nice.
And that's very nice. Yeah.
Lovely. As someone who almost grew up on internet, I respect internet a lot. I know for a solid fact, अगर मुझे internet अपनी ज़िंदगी में 1-2 साल आगे पीछे मिला होता, I could have ended up becoming a completely different person.
Yeah.
And I think that is true for a lot of people in my generation.
Yeah.
How do you think people who sort of grew up on internet, what is the one thing you can just tell them that they grew up on internet?
First 5 minutes में, either the kinds of references that they make, I think there's a seepage of a specific kind of sarcastic irony that has come into those of us who are on the internet a lot, and you can tell that
the
in
way
conversation. People are calling it post sincerity and the post irony. So that I think is very, very visible, but it's also the kinds of things they choose to talk about. Like I feel like online discourse sometimes makes you think certain things are more important versus people who spend a lot of their time and their work offline, and then there's a whole different kind of perspective coming from there. मुझे पता चल जाता है. It's a combination of physical age and then what kinds of behavior they display, which in my book I call internet years, which I think is an important marker because our physical age is now equally as important as the amount of time we've spent with this technology that has changed our lives. So that deserves to be measured much like we measure other demographic markers. We measure the amount of time you went to school for instance. We measure like gender, all of those things. So why do we then not measure tech exposure? Which is the argument that I put forward in the first chapter. I think that's important. And I think a lot of young people have told me that that's very naturally acceptable for them because we know the internet has changed us. And like you said, the amount of time we've spent on it has changed us. तो हमें भी पता है हमारे behavior में कहीं ना कहीं से आ रहा है. But I think it's also more noticeable to us. Like I can tell how my attention has changed over time, like my nature of attention. I can tell how I respond to people, how I make friends. All of that has changed. So it's a more you judging yourself and you realizing that change versus seeing it in other people. लेकिन other people में भी दिख ही जाता है ऐसे.
दिख जाता है यार. It's very interesting how internet gave us so much exposure to this new language, so much of information, books, arts, music, everything. And I feel like, there was a gap in here that, a kid from a very small town could get the access to all these things जो पहले नहीं मिल रहा था उसको कहीं से भी. Do you think in any way has internet increased the class gap, or maybe it has flattened it a little? What's your take there?
I think definitely the barriers of access that have been broken have been great. Like 2016, which is when Jio came into India, you have large chunks of the Indian population who were entirely offline suddenly coming online. And you can see the change in how internet culture changed at that point of time, which is, I mean, colloquially, people like to call it cringe content, which is what was coming on Indian TikTok. But these are people from a different class getting access to the internet and being like, this is what we will make. So I think it's a two-way exposure, both getting to put yourself out there and then what you get to see. And there's documented evidence of, people teaching themselves maths from YouTube and some kid learning about something online and deciding to pursue that as their career, etc. So I think you can never not talk about that kind of women getting access to the internet, which is giving them exposure not just to things like education, but also discourse and almost like a feminist consciousness where you decide that this is what we want to do. Economic independence, for instance, young kids, also women who are coming from not very wealthy sections of the population. If you become a content creator, and look at Nancy Tyagi, like that's a breakout example of someone who has made it big. And those are specific stories, and sometimes I think they're exceptions and not the rule. But we can't deny the exposure that has happened. I think now there's increasingly this conversation about the next generation of kids, like people who are being born now, to be raised screen free. क्योंकि हम देख रहे हैं iPad babies का तो थोड़ा वो हो रहा है. I think in that conversation there is a potential for a class gap to emerge, because if you want to raise your kids screen free, which means you give them some other way of entertainment, for a child that means you are present with the baby. You're saying phone की जगह हम पार्क जाएंगे या monument जाएंगे, museum जाएंगे, इससे खेलेंगे, चीज से, whatever. I think the second you do that, you say that one parent has the time freedom to be present for the child, which means they're either working flexibly or are not working at all. Yes. Which is a very class heavy side of discourse, because that means that you're either wealthy enough or the other person is making enough money, or there's a nanny, something like that, which a lot of households today, which are dual income households, because that's the only way to survive, will not be able to do. So if a child grows up screen free now, that's a class gap. And if the child of people who are not that wealthy grows up with a screen, that means by the time they're 10, 11, 12, this one child will maybe have attention problems or will be brain rot, or AI exposure is so great that their critical thinking hasn't developed as much as the other child's has, who is the screen free. That's a class gap that will show then in behavior and hence in opportunity and hence in life performance. Yes. So I think now we might actually start seeing a huger class gap in terms of a whole generation, which is now I think Gen Beta or late Gen Alpha. हमें शायद ब्रिजिंग ज़्यादा हो, या आई थिंक उधर अब फादर पार्टनर्स ज़्यादा हो सकते हैं.
You know, there is this thing जो अब बहुत बोलते रहते हैं आजकल के बच्चे लगते नहीं हैं.
Yeah.
Which I think is very natural for them. They grew up with so much of information. They were forced to make opinions on things जिनका maybe अगर normal childhood रहता उसमें उनका नाता ही नहीं होता about making opinions on everything that is happening in this world. How do you think this exposure to so much of awareness as a young child is affecting these people when they will enter into adulthood?
I think लोग हमारे बारे में भी वही बोलते हैं. Like I've had people of my parents' age be like, when we were in our mid-20s, we were not like that, or when we were in our early 20s or late teens, we were not like that. So for us to now see it happening to someone else, I think that's a by default of them having access to things we didn't have, and hence we didn't develop that much. It's once again that internet years वाला thing, because I feel like अभी मुझसे जो 5 साल छोटा बच्चा भी है, उसका इंटरनेट एक्सपोजर उतना ही हुआ है जितना मेरा हुआ है, क्योंकि मेरे को तो 5 साल की उम्र पे इंटरनेट मिला था. सो वी हैव टेक्निकली डेवलप्ड द सेम इन टर्म्स ऑफ डिस्कोर्स एंड एक्सपोजर ऑनलाइन, विच इज़ अ ह्यूज पार्ट ऑफ हाउ वी गेट an understanding of the world. So if we are at the same level there, then it's like, oh, this is a precocious child because they're, where I am now. So I can see that being reflected ahead, and maybe like even more so because kids get exposure young, like you said, which means you get exposure not just to the good things, but also to a lot of bad things. I was having a conversation with one of the other speakers at JLF yesterday. We were in the van coming to a hotel, and she was telling me she has a young kid, and she's been trying to, be like, okay, hamare saath time spend karo, and etc. But that all their friends have phones and they play, say, Roblox or something like that. So this kid is like, no, my sare dost khelte hai, so I also need a phone so that I can play. So even things like self-esteem or like social comparison, which is something you might get a solid exposure to later to in life, is now having to be resolved at the age of like 6 or 7, because this child is aware that my friends have, this other thing, this game that they play that I don't have. And you have to have that conversation with that child then at the age of 7. I think sex ed is happening a lot early because, kids will get access to like porn or just sexually explicit content so early. So you want to get there first. I think gender sensitization is happening early. So it's not just random exposures जिसकी वजह से बच्चे बड़े हो रहे, but also our need to get to them first in a logical way that is also causing that. And I don't know if it's good or not. Like, it's nice that kids get, honestly, exposure to things that early. But I see the value in the conversation that we need to safeguard our kids from this, because not all of this is good. And the book looks at some of the bad parts of it as well. Like, girls who get exposure to the internet early, or predisposement to esteem issues, to eating disorders, that increases. For boys, it's mood disorders, it's behavioral problems, like how you act out. It's insecurity, it's depression, it's a lot of things that are also not nice. And that scares me sometimes, yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, I will say that especially with all the kids we see आजकल की date में, okay, this sounds very stupid. I'm also a kid. I'm also from the same generation. Yeah. But there is a very strong sense of nostalgia between us. I see...
आजकल मैं देखती हूँ 2016
yes. 2026 is the new 2016. Yeah. Everybody had just collectively decided.
I don't think so, but okay.
Tell me about that.
बहुत ही rose tinted glasses है. 2016 में Trump was voted into power, right? We are talking about a time where we were on the cusp of very bad things happening. I'm not even going to touch on what was happening in India at that point of time, right? Internet पे मजे आ रहे थे is one thing, right? I was there, like Tumblr peak, King Kylie era peak, yes. And we had a lot of maybe content that we remember from back then because we were paying a lot more attention. And this is something I talk about in my book when I say that the quality of our attention has decreased over time. So I still remember AIB videos that I saw. Like, I can recite the Irfan video word for word, but I cannot tell you what reel I was watching in the cab on my way here. So we remember that so well, and it feels like we were having a good time. But a lot of us also were not. Like, I was 17 years old. I had mental health problems that were undiagnosed at that point of time, and the internet did cause some of them. And I think it's a little rose-tinted glasses syndrome that is happening right now. I think it's a trend. I think
everybody is just looking at 2016 with the Rio de Janeiro wala lens only.
Yeah. And that Kendall Jenner picture with hearts in her hair, which I remember seeing on Instagram when she posted it. So I was there. I think a lot of nostalgia is like, I was there. जब वो हुआ, like, तुम्हें याद है.
But it's very interesting how nostalgia is working. We are feeling so nostalgic over something that was not even a decade ago.
9 years ago. Yeah.
It's not a very long time to be nostalgic about. I think a lot of it also comes from the way we are documenting things. We take a lot more pictures. Pictures पहले होता था कि ठीक है बर्थडे है, if there is an occasion we are taking pictures as such. Now we get to see so many things कि 6 महीने पहले I was doing this. We are so much more nostalgic about time. We are creating pictures to hold on to these memories more than being in the moment at that time.
Hold on to the memories, they will hold on to you kind of thing, which is not true, because I think when we document things, it's a picture, an aesthetic almost that's captured far more than the entirety of what was going on at that point of time. I can see the appeal in nostalgia. I feel like the world is changing so quickly now. Like, अगर हम India पे internet access को ऐसे 2005 type का मान दे, which is when rich kids in urban areas got internet access. If you look at 2016 as the technical correct way to say that this is when large parts of India got internet access, barely 10 years after that, we have the AI revolution that's happening now. So things are changing so much, so suddenly, that for us to be like, oh, I understood what was happening back then, that I think is the appeal. मुझे समझ तो आ रहा था कि दुनिया में क्या हो रहा था. Now I don't know year from now what AI is going to do to my career. 2016 के बाद जब 2017 आया फिर क्या हुआ? Like it's a predictable stable because it's happened, right? So you survived it. We got out of it fine. Yeah. So that I think is the appeal. I don't know if next year we're going to get out of it fine. Like entire industries might change due to AI, due to climate change, due to all the things that are going wrong in the world. Lives are going to change. And maybe it's the security of the past. वो कहते हैं ना कि ऐसे warm blanket type का होता है nostalgia. Like you know you're safe because you've already done it. I think that's the appeal.
And as we are talking about the trends, those are 26 ko we are making 2016. There is also this trend of going analog this year.
Yeah, I saw. People are using the brick device. There's a thing called brick that blocks all the notifications. Yeah, I saw.
It's very interesting. I feel like this is also going to be one trend. People will go on to more consumerism. वैसे ही bricks ले लेंगे. Yeah. The idea is very nice that you will go back to the physical forms of media, but I think the way we grew up, हमारी wiring ही change हो चुकी है. I think it's very difficult for us to just go back to that analog living. What do you think about that?
I understand and resonate with the appeal in that because it's very hard to accept कि change की screen ने हमारी ज़िंदगी take over कर दी है. So that's not nice, and I want to get out of it. I think screen fatigue as a conversation has also been happening post the COVID lockdowns because we had so much screen exposure during that point of time that by entirely natural processes, we are tired and exhausted and saturated with our screen. So the desire to go analog, I see, combined with that nostalgia also, like it was a better time, like it's, I was born in the wrong era, हमें, vinyl वापस ले आओ and wired earphones वापस आ रहे हैं. All of that. I think some of it is quite well-intentioned in terms of adding friction back to your life because you realize the removal of all inconvenience from your life is not a very good thing. I stopped using delivery apps like a year or something ago because I realized I liked talking to the store people when I got to go there, which is what a COVID realization क्योंकि उस time पे नहीं हो रहा था. So just adding those things back into our lives, like maybe I like waiting for the song to come on the vinyl instead of me being able to choose on Spotify exactly what I want to play. So I think a lot of that is well-intentioned, but like you said, I think a lot of it is also now consumerism back. Like buy this device to go analog versus being like, this device is something you need to change your behavior with in order to go to a healthy relationship. So I think the push to buy more things and then to document it online. मतलब आप मुझे ऑनलाइन बता रहे हो कि आप ऑफलाइन जा रहे हो और आप हर हफ्ते डॉक्यूमेंट कर रहे हो और एक घंटे का आप व्लॉग बना रहे हो कि मैं ऑफलाइन जा रहा हूँ तो तुम्हारा स्क्रीन टाइम तो मेरी स्क्रीन टाइम से ज़्यादा है ना. और मैं तो नहीं जा रही, मेरे पास 2 फोन है ना, मेरे पास तो है सब कुछ जो डिवाइसेस आप कह रहे हो मुझे नहीं यूज़ करने चाहिए. सो I tend to side with you, I think, on that debate. I think a lot of it is a trend. The real conversation is something I'm writing about, so maybe we will not put it in the final cut, but I tell you still, right? I think the real conversation needs to be how do we decenter internet and the tech from our lives. I think there are times when I'm having a lot of fun जब मुझे पता भी नहीं होता मेरा फ़ोन का है, मेरी स्क्रीन्स का है, मेरे पास इंस्टाग्राम है, ये मैं भूल जाती हूँ. आजकल मुझे बहुत मज़ा आ रहा है. I'm in the middle of a very, say, scintillating session where Stephen Fry is talking about something. I'm not even thinking about the internet as a concept. Sometimes I'm having a lot of fun with my family or with my partner or I'm playing with my sister's baby and Riya Chops कोई है मुझे नहीं याद रहता, like that sort of thing. I feel like we need to find those moments and maximize those. And I get a lot of that when, say, I'm quizzing. Quizzing is using my brain to an intensity where I don't think about other things. A really good book will do that for you. Versus the process of decentering technology from your life in a way which आप tech के बारे में ही सोचे जाते हो. Like, the whole time you put your phone away, you're like, oh wow, I'm not on my phone. I'll make a vlog about my break later or that. I feel like that might be a little unhealthy because tech is still the main character of your life. So I think those moments where it's not the main character exist more in them. You are the main character.
How is it writing about internet? How do you study the language of internet that is changing so fast? How was your entire experience putting these things into language?
That was one of the funnest parts for me because we experience the internet in a multimedia way, right? Pictures, mostly a lot of internet is pictures and videos now, and text and chota video text amalgamations that we call memes. And do you know the meme loss?
Meme loss, what's that?
There's a meme called Loss. I know he's nodding behind the camera. So it's, I don't even know how to explain it to you, but there's now a meme about loss which goes, "Is this loss?" Can we please put like a photo of loss right here? I'll talk about it. It's fine. So loss is this meme where it's a comic strip of 4 panels
Okay.
where there's a guy who rushes his wife to the hospital because she's pregnant. So the first panel is him and his wife standing. The second panel is his wife lying down and he's standing, and I think she's in labor or something. The third panel is, I think the doctor tells him that none of them made it, like maybe both of them have passed, something like that. And the final one is just the guy very despondently alone. So if you look at the people in these panels, now आप उनको as lines represent कर सकते हो, which is, first one is 2 lines because they are both standing, then it's 1 line and a horizontal line because the wife is laying down, then the third panel is maybe once again 2 lines, and then the last panel is just 1 line because the guy is all alone. So now that specific lines is loss.
Okay.
So in another way, do you know Saddam Hussein hiding spot? Which is also a meme. Oh wow. There's a famous diagram which is when the US people killed Saddam Hussein, found him. So he was hiding in an underground bunker. तो उसका एक ना specific diagram है जो internet पे बहुत famous है, which is the it's a map of where he was, and जहाँ पे वो छुपे हुए थे, which is underground, वहाँ पे वो लेटे हुए थे. It was,
I think I've seen
yeah,
this.
So,
Yes.
so they make a human image there, and it's labeled Saddam Hussein hiding spot. So that specific shape of his body, as depicted in the picture, is now called Saddam Hussein hiding spot. So people now make memes about, you know, अगर मैं दूर से mountains देख रही हूँ और वो mountain range थोड़ी ऐसे ऐसे जा रही है, so it's like, is this Saddam Hussein hiding spot? Or I'm looking at temperature fluctuation, I'm looking at my heartbeat वाला वो जो वो धक धक धक, like, is this Saddam Hussein hiding spot? So the same for loss, you know. People hide it everywhere. Like, I could be recording this podcast and randomly we have loss there, and it's like, oh, is this loss? You know, like, it's a secret thing. And it took me, like, you know, 10 minutes to explain this to you like this, and imagine how hard that would be for the book. But I've made meme references and I've tried, because I wanted people to read it and feel like they're on the internet, because the idea is also that we never log out. So even if you're on the page, you're still mentally there, and we're talking about it, so you're mentally there. So it's packed full of meme references and trivia that I found online, and like specific online things that happened, like Ask FM as a moment. So you're transported back into that onlineness while talking about it. And I think the way I wanted to use my language was that English mein hai, grammar sahi hai, all of that is there. But I am far more interested in conveying the exact things I want to say. So if I use a meme reference and then the grammar of my sentence is wrong, that's fine. Like, I spoke to my copy editors, my editor about it. I was like, this book is not grammatically correct in parts, because I'm talking about memes which are not grammatically correct. There are paragraphs that is just information after information after information after information. Like, it's so much, and I've gotten reviews saying that it's very dense and it takes time to get through it, but that's because you're paying attention to how much information there is on the page. हम जब scroll कर रहे होते हैं तो आपको इतना ही information आ रहा होता है और आप parse भी नहीं कर रहे हो उसको properly. I wanted that, like, feel the overwhelm in the book, feel the fact that a full paragraph is just one sentence, because that's how we talk when we're making a reel. Feel the fact that there's 15 different things on the page demanding your attention and how much that overwhelms you, and then think about what that is doing to you when it's on your phone. So I wanted to get that urgency, but there's also then I think an underlying layer of, but let's think about this. 3 pages full of like stuff, and then 4 page में एक ही argument मैंने dissect किया. So I wanted
That is done very beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was like an exorcism, I feel, to write this book. Like, I had this inside me for so long, and I had inside of me so many complicated feelings, and I think it helped me also sort through what I felt about it. Like I started with a vague idea कि ये लिखेंगे, but by the end of it, my opinions about things have changed, as all writing I think does. But it was so fun.
Love that, love that. I loved how the exact thing you said कि एक ही आप argument पे 4 पेज तक रह रहे हो and you have to write so many things around it without losing the plot. That is a great work done.
मैं आपको बताऊं ऑनेस्टली, रील बनाना, ट्वीट लिखना आसान होता है क्योंकि आपको थोड़ा सा कुछ बोलना होता है उसके बारे में. इट्स slightly harder to write a newspaper magazine article, but it's 1500 words max, right? तो मैं कितना ही argumentation कर लूँगी. When you have 10,000 words for one idea, you cannot chimp on your logic. You cannot not dig down to the deepest layer. जो मैंने भी नहीं सोचा था, you know, like I had opinions, and then the more layers I went into, like the fundamental layer is always the humanist layer, and that's where you realize a lot of contradictions lie. क्योंकि मैं argue एक चीज़ करती हूँ लेकिन मैं भी कुछ और ही करती हूँ लाइफ में, you know. So the cognitive dissonance was very harrowing while writing the book, but it was also extremely enlightening for me. Like it's like this book has changed at least one person's life, and that's me.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was very nice.
Love that. I think you have talked about dating in today's world. You have also talked about some films like Nadanya and Lavyapa in your book as well, and how they were not able to sort of grasp onto what actually modern dating is actually like. What do you think was missing in there, and how do you think इसको film representation में ऐसे देना चाहिए? Because I think how you made parallel with the literature one. You have talked about Sally Rooney, you have talked about Wendy Cope, all these people who are also writing about contemporary dating, who are talking about how modern dating is working आजकल में. Tell me about that.
I think my point with the Bollywood examples was that if you're claiming to represent the young Indian Gen Z experience, the internet needs to be part of that display. And removing it altogether is untrue to our experience because we are one of the most online demographics in the world. But putting it in there to an extent that is caricaturish and unnatural is also incorrect, because the internet for a lot of us is almost like a part of our life. I like the language in which I talk about it in the book, where I give you examples of specific things that say Lavyapa got wrong, which is that हम फोन एक्सचेंज करते हैं हमारी रिलेशनशिप फिक्स हो जाएगा. इतना नहीं होता है. It's a lot more about your behavior, the way the internet has changed you, versus specifically that device and that problem. So I think these Bollywood films tend to both either overhype or underhype the importance of the internet in our life, specifically in romance. Modern dating is such a nuanced space to be in. So much has improved, like our conversation around sexual freedoms, our conversation about different kinds of sexuality, different kinds of relationships, the power of women to now be able to walk away from a relationship that is not that good because you're able to have access to content that tells you that, say, this is toxic behavior or this is gaslighting. I think those are very important conversations that happened on the internet that changed the way modern dating works. I don't think movies have been able to properly do justice to that yet. I think literature does better slightly in that regard, but then it's once again hard to write or make an internet movie or book that appeals to everyone because we've had so many personal, very unique experiences with the internet. My book also, I know that not kids, but people between the ages of 18 to 35 are, I think, best placed to understand the book. If you're younger, if you're 16 or if you're 40, you will get the logic, but the specificities will not resonate with you as much, which is fine. It's a trade-off you make, but it changes popular culture display. That's all I'm saying. Modern dating के interesting. मुझे reality shows बहुत अच्छे लगते हैं.
Tell me.
हाँ, like I watch everything. Love Island, all of that. I saw some of the recent Splitsvilla seasons also for research purposes. I've used Indian matchmaking in the book as an example, which I thought was very fun because I feel like, and obviously reality shows are also scripted and edited, but to see real, like this is what the internet did to us. You know, you look at them, you're like, this is what it did. अभी पीछे किसी लव आइलैंड वाले का एक ऐसे वो हो गया था चीटिंग स्कैंडल कि वो that I think is one of the more interesting displays of the internet. This is not related to dating altogether, but there was this gossipy thing that happened in the English football circles around 5-7 years ago, where I think there's this footballer Wayne Rooney, उसकी वाइफ को पता चला था कि कोई उनके क्लोज फ्रेंड्स लिस्ट में जो वो पोस्ट करती है वो प्रेस को लीक करता है. So what she did was, say maybe she had like 100 people on her close friends list. So she removed all of them and added one of them back. Posted a story that said one thing. Removed that person, added another person, posted another story. And waited to see what would leak to the press. And she found out that another footballer's wife had been leaking that stuff. It was very fun. I feel like this is so interesting.
Wow.
What a story, you know?
Yeah.
So I think what real people are doing with and on the internet in relationships, not just romantic, is very interesting to me.
It's also very interesting how people love to gossip on all the internet relationship figures. I have a very different opinion in there. I feel like people who are very actively online in relationships, they have something
Couple
missing in their
influences.
couple influences. They have something missing in their life. कुछ तो void है जो वो internet पे डाल के ये पूरा कर रहे हैं in their relationship, which I might completely change. मैं क्या पता I'll be also posting about my partner in a few years, which is where I want to bring about the point of having opinions on the internet and how they keep on changing. As I know you have been writing a lot on the internet and you must have seen yourself changing over the years, your opinions changing over the years. It's a little scary, you know, to be putting out your opinions in such a impressionable age out in the world.
I think there are two things that I'd like to talk about when I talk about that. First is the pressure of the internet to put out your opinions as fast as possible. Something is trending और मैंने अभी उसके बाद में रील बना दी, मेरी रील 1 million हिट कर जाएगी. Which means that I see people around me and I've seen in myself that urge to chimp on research or to not spend as much time thinking about something because I want the hot take first. I want to be the person who gets the news article tomorrow that, you know, writer and creator Riya Chopra said XYZ. As someone who prides myself on thinking things through a lot, to see that happen to me was not very nice. It's also not just the time pressure of putting it out first, but the time pressure of seeing it as snappily as possible. क्योंकि अगर मैंने एक चीज़ 3 ट्वीट में लिखी उसको 100 लोग पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन अगर मैंने एक ट्वीट में सब कह दिया तो 1000 लोगों तक पहुंचेगा बिकॉज इट्स ईजियर टू रीड जस्ट वन. सो आई एम गोना रिमूव एवरी बिट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड जस्ट पुट लाइक माई हॉट टेक. सेम विद अ रील. लाइक इफ आई make a 3-minute reel versus if I make a 30-second reel. 30-second reel will algorithmically do better. And hence, I'm encouraged to say things with as little context, as little explanation as possible, which if you see my content, I actively have stayed against. Like my reels are 3 minutes long. Puri dekho. Like when I watched and felt that happen to me, that pressure of let's say things quickly and shortly, it's not nice because I'm a writer and I like the space and the time to think things through and say them at length. So I think that is causing a lot of discourse में fragmentation क्योंकि लोगों के पास context ही नहीं होता. आपका information सारा रील्स से आ रहा है लेकिन रील्स में सारा incomplete information है, तो आपका क्या opinion बन रहा है वो आपको भी नहीं पता कितना गलत है. That is one. I think the second thing is when we put things out publicly, however much you may try to be authentic, you are performing to some degree. Okay, were I truly authentic in my book, this would not be an English book. This would be English and Hindi and a lot of slang and meme references combined because that's how I think. But for the purpose of the reader's understanding, this is now an entirely English book. Other things happen. You frame things in a way that may be better or catchier to listen to. You know, so everyone wants that one dialogue or that one thing or that one line. So same with your couple's influencers, but I think also what I'm trying to get at is that the opinion may not be wrong or the relationship may not be incomplete, but the second you are thinking of putting it out there, it is a performance. And when it is a performance, it is work, it is structured in some way, it's a set. You know, if it's a proposal photo, the proposal happened, but you're both very conscious of this is going to be posted, so let's make it look a certain way. And, you know, stand like this, and let me suck my stomach in, let me wear, you know, specific dress, blah, blah,
The
blah.
aesthetics are very important.
The aesthetics are very important. Same with opinions. Like, the way I see it is very important. If I use a meme in the middle of a political opinion, you know, maybe people will be like, haha, along with being smart, she's also funny, so let me put the meme in. I think all of that renders so much superficiality and artificiality to our opinions that even if the opinion is right, I feel like the authenticity is such a loaded word and such an unfair expectation to have online. So I sometimes feel that way when I see people like talking shit about each other online. I've had some people say that, you know, I don't like her content or she's annoying. I see it happen to like actors and actresses with relationship influencers, every time a couple breaks up, there's this huge wave of
Huge,
discourse of
yeah.
hमें ये लग रहा था, वो लग रहा था. The second someone is posting their take, they're also doing it so that other people like it, share it, subscribe to it, talk about it, blow it up. You're encouraged to have extremer opinions. You're encouraged to be like, you know, he's so XYZ. The grace we give to each other in real life is missing from what we do online. And I think that adds a lot of black and whiteness to everything, which is so grey. And
Very
that's
true.
not nice.
That is very well said. आपने Vogue का article पढ़ा था, the very popular one, is having a boyfriend embarrassing now.
Oh, yeah.
What's your take there?
The article, like all journalists should do, had a catchier headline than like the piece, because the piece was not about is having a boyfriend embarrassing. It's about is having them part of your public life online embarrassing and loaded, and then what if you break up, and what if your friends don't like it. Like it was a whole thing that the headline didn't capture. हाँ, मुझे बहुत out of proportion लगा वो conversation. The writer was not saying what everyone else who just read the headline and started talking about it saying. What I also think now is I see a lot of articles written in a similar vein, because that was, I think, one article that really blew up to a level at which articles don't blow up. Like everyone is very often not reading the same essay the way all of us read that one essay that week. So I see a lot of sometimes engineering now, if you see other, not just Vogue, but other articles, this hooksiness of the headline, and like people know relationship plus online is a very potent combination. So that is, so I'd say like the ramifications, everyone wants the next boyfriend is embarrassing article now. So if you see how writers are writing, it's interesting. Like that's what I'll say. The opinion itself was not overly interesting to me. Like I agreed to some of it. I didn't agree with some of it. I thought it was blown out of proportion. वो तो कह भी नहीं रही थी कि having a boyfriend is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's very, very funny to me that the month after is having a boyfriend embarrassing, the most popular song is Where the Hell is My Husband?
Yes.
So I think that says something.
Yeah. I saw you posted this picture of Pride and Prejudice. पिछले कल ही डाली है वो
हाँ,
आपने.
कल ही
It was
डाली.
your birthday.
Yeah. I'm
पहले तो
27 years old and I have no money and no prospects, and
Yes.
I'm a disappointment to my parents.
Yes. This is very interesting because how internet is shaping our ambition. Because एक वक्त था when the only means of knowing who is successful was your geographic location. आपके मोहल्ले में जो आपको quote unquote सबसे successful आदमी दिखता था, that was your comparison to it. But since internet has come along, you see the comparison getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You see so many people doing great stuff. How do you think it's affecting our ambitions as young kids?
I think social comparison is a lot greater, like you said, and social comparison affects all of us in different ways. इससे पहले आपने जैसे कहा कि वो मौर्य का एक बंदा, शर्मा जी का बेटा, figure that we talk about, it's that one person who's the comparison, like उसके 99 आ रहे हैं, तुम्हारे क्यों कम आ रहे हैं, उसका वो ओलंपिक्स में चला गया, I'm sure that would happen at some point, या वो देखो उसने न्यूज़पेपर में आर्टिकल छाप दिया, या he's a model, आप क्या करोगे, डॉक्टर बन गए, इंजीनियर बन गए, blah blah blah. And now there's hundreds and thousands of those on our feed, and Instagram likes to show you successful people because success sells, and success gets people scrolling through your carousel of wins a lot more. How it affects us can be positively. Some people get motivated by it, some people get extremely demotivated by it, but I think the act of comparison itself is sad and is problematic, because in that moment, even if it motivates you positively, the feeling is still of lack. कि मेरे पास अभी ये नहीं है और मुझे ये चाहिए. Which can be a very potent force. Like people can get very successful off of that. There are very many successful influencers or creators today who will tell you that I watched, YouTube beauty bloggers in the West. Like I used to watch, they're problematic now, but your James Charles and your Tati and all of those people. And फिर मुझे लगा मैं भी creator बन जाऊँ यहाँ पे. So a lot of Indian creators will tell you that हम Superwoman देखते थे, and हमने decide किया हम वो करेंगे, and that's great because now they are successful here. Actors will tell you that मैं अमिताभ बच्चन देखता था, मुझे लगा मैं भी बनूँ. So it can be a very powerful driver, but it has equally as much potential to ruin your life because you will continue comparing. And I've seen this in myself. Like the second you compare yourself to someone else and you have what they now have, it's not enough, because now it's like, okay, what next? Versus the enjoyment of setting a goal for yourself and being like, I got it. If I'd been socially pushed to become a doctor, once I became a doctor, I might have still not been happy. Versus the pleasure it gives me now to say that, when I was 5, I wanted to be a writer and I got to be a writer. Any kind of social comparison will not take that away from me. You put me in a room with 10 billionaires, I still got to be what I wanted to be, So that's a very good feeling. And I feel like that individuality of setting goals can be taken away because hum itna dikhta hai. I talk about that in chapter 4, which is called What's in My Bag, that people are showcasing so much identity through objects that object accumulation has become a personality in itself. Like if I have these 5 objects, I'm the artsy person. If I have Birkenstocks and the right tote bag from like Daunt Books or from the MoMA, I'm the artisty person. If I have this device, I'm the tech geek. If I wear Meta, those recording glasses, then I'm the tech geek. If I am holding an advanced copy of the book that's going to come out next year, then I'm important in the literary spaces. To do this kind of object accumulation, if I want the bag, if I want, the what is the latest, some French brand जिसके bags आजकल बहुत popular हो रहे हैं, basically if I want to be a fashion girly, I need that French brand's bag, then I need the money to get that bag shipped to me or to go to France and buy it. And to have that money, then I need to have a high-paying job, and then I'm going to put myself, in the corporate space so I can keep buying more things. And एक बार मेरे पास वो चीज़ आ गई, अब कुछ और ट्रेंड हो रहा है, तो मुझे वो भी चाहिए, फिर मुझे वो भी चाहिए. तो बहुत endless cycle है. And I think it's easy for me to talk about this now. It's harder to live with it. It took so much more time for me to, when I left my corporate job, for instance, to accept that I will maybe not in life make as much money as, my peers who started their career with me would make. There are all kinds of satisfactions, and social comparison will take all of them away from you. So better to get out of it when you can. एक बार आप बड़े हो गए, I think 35, 40 is like, it's very hard to change yourself after that. Uske baad, big life events like moving somewhere or the death of someone close to you, that is what changes you. I think before that, थोड़ी मेहनत से हम अपने आप को बदल भी सकते हैं.
True.
So it's a good time to get conscious. I think conversations like this are happening now. I like the de-influencing brief period of time we were talking about de-influencing last year. I was hoping it would take off, though that was a different kind of influencing in itself. But I liked that was happening in online spaces.
What would you like to de-influence?
चीज़ें कम खरीदो is what I would like to. Everyone has too much stuff. And the upkeep of that is different. Like all these things I'm saying कि हमें कमाना पड़ेगा, blah, 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 is one thing. But the environmental impact of that is so different. Like there are people who do like skincare hauls, and all I can see is like plastic. And I'm not saying I'm not buying plastic and I'm not buying fast fashion or any of that. But the decision that this is more important to me than the environment. I feel like these are things we should think about. Like at least बुरा तो लगे करते हो, वो भी नहीं हो रहा. Tech जितना खरीद रहे हैं, electronic waste is the hardest to like biodegradable तो होता ही नहीं है, but the waste disposal of that, because it's often toxic because it's chemical. And the amount of technology we are producing today, like gadgets, physical gadgets that we are producing today, it's horrible, and it's मतलब हमारे पास बचे ही अभी कुछ decades ही हैं, तो फिर we will all have to deal with it how we do. That's very doomer of me, but it's like कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा. I think ठीक है.
Speaking of that, ये Pride and Prejudice का quote was also your birthday post.
Yeah.
How was your birthday this time around? You were celebrating your book at the same time.
Yeah.
JLF was happening. Tell me about that.
Like I told you before, I always cry on my birthday, which I think a lot of people do. It's a fairly
birthday
universal.
is a real thing.
Yeah. I think it's a vulnerable time because you're like, oh, I'm a year older. Though technically you're only 1 day older than you were the day before. But लगता तो है कि एक साल वो हो गया, and then it makes you think कि मैंने साल में क्या किया. And the experience of like, even if it's happy, like I've had good years and then I still cry on my birthday because it's the weight of, okay, like this happened and now there's more to go, blah, blah, blah. And this time I was so in the moment because I was so busy and so much was happening, and I met Vishwanathan Anand on my birthday, which is, as someone who, enjoyed playing chess as a child, like I still play as a hobby sometimes. He was crazy, and I told him it was my birthday, and he said, happy birthday, beta, which was very cute. And I have a picture with him where we were both smiling because, he just wished me happy birthday. So, yeah, it was crazy. And I think the best kind of birthday, because you're doing something that you enjoy so much, And I got to be, I think, main character of JLF for a day, which is who wouldn't want that,
Wow.
you know. हर party पे मैंने लोगों को happy birthday गवाया मेरे लिए. I think I cut 3 cakes. I had naan khatai at 12, which was very good, fresh, warm naan khatai, which was a very good meetha thing to have. I had a good time. Yeah.
Lovely. I love that. You were talking about this one chapter in your book, What's in My Bag. Honestly, I think the era of YouTube, I've been a YouTube girly through and through. I used to love watching people showing what's in my
That's why I
bag.
called it that, yeah.
What's in my bag? What's my after school routine? What do I do? That was my favorite kind of YouTube, and I miss those simpler times. But I would love to know which was your favorite era of the internet. What did you enjoy the most?
मुझे actually the video essay boom of the last 6-7 years is quite enjoyable for me because I like it's articles in video form. I think even what I make on Instagram is like video essay, but it's shorter and it's vertical. So the YouTube form of that, there's people who do like one a month with so much effort. I love what Mohak Mangal makes in India, for instance. I think those are video essays combined with, and he has a wonderful research team who, cite, there's a doc in his bio in every video that is all his citations. So he's doing like culture essays and commentary in video form, which I think is very lovely. So for me, I think it's ab thoda zyada proliferate ho gaya. So a lot of video essays are just each other paraphrased. But when it was happening, I think COVID time पे जैसे मैंने थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा देखा, so I quite enjoy that. What's in my bag? Makeup, like I've seen those eras, but I don't know if I overly liked them all that much. I think podcasting I liked in bits.
Do you have any recommendations? Any YouTube channel?
Kitabi Cabin.
That is so sweet.
No, I quite like yours. Who else? Anurag Mainasarma, who I've been watching for a very long time, and I now have the privilege of accompanying around to Lit Fests. I think he does a very good podcast. There's this new one started by Soumya and Vajmita that's called Shut Up, We're Talking.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called. Shut up, I'm talking. Shut up, we're talking. Something like that. It's funny. It's nice to have two opinionated women say what they want to say in a very male-heavy podcasting space. I like that. I like Riza Mangaldas. I was on her podcast and she asked me very smart, intelligent questions. Like that's journalism happening in real time. And to talk about love so seriously and from a variety of perspectives, like she's covering marriage, she's covering sex and sexuality, she's covering divorce, she's looking at not just love as romance, but also love as friendship between parent and child, blah, blah, blah. I think to take such a beautiful emotion that seriously, I think is very nice. So I like hers. I watch, I think, a lot of Indian podcasters, but I really also like Taylor Lawrence, who I've also cited in my book. She has a tech podcast where she interviews people. It's called Power User. And that's her newsletter. And she does like a podcast also. So I quite like hers, and which I think is nice. As a little bit of a fun, I watch Bitchtopia. Okay. I mean, I listen to Bitchtopia. Like I don't watch it. And I watch Las Culturistas, which is Bowen Yang and his friend whose name just skipped my mind, but they do like interviews. Oh, Chicken Shop Date.
Oh,
I love Chicken
love
Shop
that.
Date. Yeah, how did I forget in media? Yeah, I feel like we're friends. She's my one parasocial. I have like 3 parasocial.
Tell me who are these people?
No.
Okay, one is Amelia.
One is Amelia.
Love that. I wanted to ask you this very serious question while I was reading this book myself. When you're writing about a topic such as internet that is so volatile, it's changing so rapidly, when you're writing about something, maybe by the time this book will come out,
Irrelevant.
वो irrelevancy हो सकती है. How did you choose these topics to be permanent in your books? Like how was your criteria of choosing these things कि ये permanent कर सकते हैं हम इसको किताब में?
I think I wanted my book to be as broad as possible. This is a Gen Z book, but if you look at every chapter has a value. When I was writing their drafts, all the drafts were one word long. So the first one was identity. The second one was called love. Third one was consumerism. Fourth one was memory and forgetting. Fifth one is fame. The decision to pick up these values, I think, are because these are the most universal things that we contend with, and these are things that we don't have black and white stances on. I didn't do a womanhood on the internet chapter because it can be a one word thing, like I'm a feminist. I wanted to pick up things that people have complicated. What do you think about fame? What do you think about privacy? What do you think about knowledge as changing on the internet? What is your opinion on love? On anonymity? That universality was important to me because I knew that these contentions, because they've been so contentious for so long, would exist for at least a few more years. So I wanted this to be as broad and as relevant to those themes as possible. उसके अंदर examples फिर specific वगैरह हैं which I had to pick. What's in my bag, for instance, I mentioned Labubu once. जस्ट इन पासिंग, क्योंकि वो उस टाइम पे चल रहा था जब मैं लिखी थी, लेकिन मुझे वो दिख रहा था कि ये ट्रेंड तो निकल ही जाएगा, इट्स अ थिंग, इट्स गोना डाई आउट. But some of the memes that I reference, I think, are more long-lasting, that have stayed for a long time. Some of the thinkers that I reference have stayed for a long time. So I think it's a personal choice and an evaluation of मुझे लगता है ये relevant होगा आगे versus नहीं होगा. So much of my shorter writing online, for instance, like the newspaper, magazine essays that I do, are slightly more time-bound. कि अभी ये हो रहा है और ये मुझे लग रहा है. I think the book was an exercise in challenging myself कि क्या है जो 5, 10, 15 साल तक relevant रहेगा. And I think to a large part I have been, at least in the, it's been 1.5 years now since I started writing this, so at least some things have stayed, like those questions have stayed relevant. Sometimes I see discourse happening on the internet now and I want to put paste a paragraph from my book, that talks about it, but I want people to get to it by themselves. There's so much I've not talked about and missed, and there's room in other essays, other books, wo sab chalega. So no way is this a be all end all of the internet, but I think I picked the questions I have had for a long time, and I felt that people like me would have also, had for a long time.
I was just about to ask you, what is something from the book that people are maybe not picking up on yet, and you want them to see कि देखो ये भी डाला है यहाँ पे?
Oh, that's very interesting. That's a lovely question. I want to wait for people to find out, but there's Bollywood references, for instance, like dialogues that were said in Hindi, जो मैंने बस as an English line लिख दिया. So I'm waiting to see if people catch.
Okay.
There's a Shakespeare line in the middle somewhere, so I'm waiting to see if someone catches that.
Okay.
There's a lot of trivia, which I think is interesting, and there's a lot of trust in the reader that the reader will stick it. I want to take the example of the 7th chapter, which is about post-knowledge world right now. कि अब knowledge सबको accessible है, तो अब क्या? And it starts with 3 very distinct stories, unrelated 3 threads. Only at the end of the chapter, which is 10,000 words later, do those 3 threads come together. So मेरा भी थोड़ा पर्सनल एक्सपेरिमेंट था, और ये मैं अपनी रील्स में भी करती हूँ कि अगर मैं बहुत स्लोली एक स्टोरी सुना रही हूँ तो कौन टिकेगा एंड तक, बिकॉज द पे ऑफ कम्स इन द लास्ट 10 seconds. In all my reels, it starts with आज मैं सुबह विकिपीडिया पे थी और फिर ये who sticks, and people do, like people the discovery more. So I think the discoveries are very interesting, and people have reached out to me saying that we are also on the same platform, or we also read the same thing, but we didn't notice this one thing. So I think those are also things that I'm excited for people to just explore and be like, oh ये नहीं उस चैप्टर में आया था और अब ये इस चैप्टर में आ रहा है. So I think that's that is some of the more interesting stuff. Yeah.
Nice. You have been a writer yourself. Are there any articles, Substack pages, anything that you would recommend to people?
I think I read everything. I am not a wo of like kahan se aa rahi hai. So there's so many books, for instance. I have a 12-page bibliography, I think. And I've had people tell me that I'm now going through the bibliography and reading everything that you've questioned. Someone wrote me a review कि मुझे फर्स्ट चैप्टर पढ़ने में ऐसे 20 दिन लग गए क्योंकि मैं हर रेफरेंस को फिर गूगल करके पूरा पढ़ती थी. सो आई थिंक इफ यू वांट लाइक अ रीडिंग रिकमेंडेशन इंटरनेट स्पेसिफिक, द बिब्लियोग्राफी ऑफ दिस बुक इज अ लवली प्लेस टू स्टार्ट बिकॉज आई हैव cited books, I've cited Substacks, articles. I really like what Gia Tolentino writes in the West about the internet. So her writing is something that's been like a very cornerstone and influential, I think, in my tone as well. There's Indian writers, reporters whose work I follow. There's Indian thinkers. I was reading a lot of fiction and watching a lot of fiction, for instance, while writing this, because I also had to research so much. That was all non-fiction. So I would recommend a lot of fiction because मैंने इतनी सारी the last few years. I'm saying books, like all of that. I read so much Indian contemporary fiction because I was trying to see what people are writing about these themes now. So while doing the love chapter, I was reading a lot of contemporary romance novelists, for instance. While writing the fame chapter, I was reading a lot of internet-y books. Basically, like my research was, I was watching films. Last chapter is entirely films, representation. तो मैं सारी देखी बैठ के. बहुत मजा है. So yeah, maybe look at the bibliography as my your recommendations. I'd say that.
Nice. Any books that you loved growing up? Any book recommendations for people? You can geek out as much as you want in this section.
More recently, I've been a murder mystery geek my whole life. I was reading murder mysteries, Agatha Christie specifically. I think at an age that was a little early for me to be reading murder mysteries because my बहन पढ़ती थी and she's my older sister. So I was at the same reading level as her even though she was older. So I made my way through all of Christie's over very young. So I love film adaptations of her works. I've loved Knives Out recently as a murder mystery, and I love Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club series. That's a wonderful cozy mystery. So you have 4 old people solving crimes together, murder mysteries together. And I think there's something very beautiful about people who are admittedly very close to death themselves. And that's acknowledged throughout the book because the narrator is one of those 4 old people who's like, life has moved ahead of us. Like there's younger people taking up the mantle doing the work. This is just the end of our life. And to then solve deaths of other people, I think is a very interesting place to place your murder mystery. And I love that. I think I also get a huge hit of like solving something when I'm doing a murder mystery, तो मुझे brain चलाना exciting लगता है. I really liked What the What book recently. It's a trivia book that was written by friends of mine, Nipun and Mohit, and they run a YouTube channel also called Arey Pata Hai. They do like quizzing and stuff. That I like. This is becoming a quizzing recommendation section, I think. I like Gursimran Khamba's new quizzing comedy show.
Nice.
Yeah, I downloaded, I think, all the 3 episodes and then watched them on my flight here. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I love that. I reread all of Anuja Chauhan's work recently while doing the romance chapter also. Like I was doing that. So I'm not a huge romance person, but I like her work. What else do I want to recommend? I'm making my way through Aanchal Malhotra's 3rd book, which is her first fiction book now, but her work on partition is very lovely and I enjoy that. I've been recommending all of her work to everybody that I see. A mainstay of mine that जब कोई भी recommendation मांगता है तो मैं देती हूँ. I talk about Shrayana Bhattacharya's book Desperately Seek Each Other. What a wonderful, wonderful book that I've read so many times. I am a subscriber to Rekha Jha's Substack. I love her Substack. It's one of the few, since you are Substacks before that, I love reading. I read week after week and I really, really enjoy. I think Professor Ravikant Kisana writes a very interesting Substack. He's Buffalo Intellectual Online. His book was very good, Meet the Savarnas. But his Substack is a little more irreverent, very funny. He's also a funny person in person. We've met now, we've hung out a few times. And I think he has a very nice tonality in his newsletter that I like. And he's very honest about a lot of things, which I enjoy. I want to give a shout out to this culture writer who I really, really like. Her name is Darshita Goel. I have the privilege of calling her maybe also a friend now. Like we're acquainted. And I think she picks up a lot of interesting trends to do dissections of, and her interviews are very interesting. And I think she's doing very nice culture writing here. So yeah, love her work.
Nice. And you also mentioned watching a lot of films. Were you a film geek as well growing up?
No, I'm not. Film and music has been something that I do because it's culture and, like sometimes you have to fill your time. And I have like favorites. Aisa nahi hai ki I'm not interested, but the technicalities of those fields don't interest me as much as literature does. Like my degree is literature, so I am qualified to talk about it, not just in terms of I like this, I don't like it, but also form, also history, context, nuance, all of that. For me, film and music is entertainment mostly, so I'm not a cinephile, I would say, though I end up watching a lot and I have different favorites and there's styles that I like to. My partner's very into film in the sense of he watches a lot of lesser known films, like there's translations. I only very recently started watching subtitled works. Like it was just not something I used to do out of habit, but I think he has introduced me to a lot of even Indian movies that are not in Hindi. If you look at the last chapter, for instance, I use a lot of Bollywood because my consumption has been mainstream. So I speak Hindi, so I watch Hindi films. The exposure otherwise has been through friends, through like my partner, and a lot of other things. I quiz, so that gives me a lot of exposure to nuances of film sometimes. I like visual arts, like I like paintings, I like photography, I like documentary films.
Tell us about
As a medium,
Okay, as a
I'm just saying
medium.
like film for me or like art for me is not just film, books, music, for instance. Like for me, um, especially like the more famous masters, like I'm decent with my art history basically is what I'm trying to say, and I enjoy that. Like not just looking at it, but learning the provenance of something. कि कैसे आया. I like history in the sense of I think when you grow up in Delhi, you get a natural appreciation for history.
Yeah.
वो वही होता है. वहाँ फोर्ट है, वहाँ टूम्ब है,
Yesterday I was
दरगाह
talking
वहाँ
with
है.
Harleen Singh, he said the same thing.
Yeah, like how can you not? मैं सड़क पे जाती हूँ, कुतुब मीनार वहीं है, मुझे दिख रहा है. मैं स्कूल was in Saket, you know, so we used to take a long route sometimes. जब BRT बन रहा था तो वहाँ जैम होता था, हम घूम के जाते थे. तो कुतुब मीनार है वहाँ पे. How can I not? It's so lovely because history is at your doorstep. It's so accessible, which is also why I feel like 2 years back internet पे there was this third space discourse that India में third space नहीं है. Were you part of that? So a third
No,
space
tell me about
is
that.
somewhere where adults can go to gather outside of home and work. And the necessity is that that space is a public space and hence it's free and accessible to anyone. And you can do what you want to do, hang out, do a reading, get friends, do a picnic, blah, blah, blah. So accessibility is built into the need for the third place. This is an American discourse that America is infrastructurally so capitalistic. There's home, there's work, and then there's commute, there's nothing else. And if you want to go to a third place, you go somewhere, you spend money. So coffee shop, money, club money, museums के भी tickets होते हैं वहाँ पे. I feel like third places are so, at least for some of our more main cultural centers, cities, are so built into our culture and our structures. All tombs in Delhi are a third place. Lodi Garden is a third place. It's free. Sundar Nursery is not because it has a ticket. It's gentrified as. But most there's parks, mandir, religious sites, third place, Gurudwara, beautiful, right? So I think that appreciation for physical engagement for me comes from there. My parents also like monuments and museums, so I was brought up on a steady diet of let's go here, let's go there. I think Delhi is interesting that way because we have so much to see. Go to the haunted site, go to a religious site. बाउली है दिल्ली में, tombs हैं, इतने जिस भी period of history के आपको explore करना आप जाओ. So I like that. I like the physical engagement parts of things. I am a huge fan of the subterranean Humayun Museum. It launched last year, I think, under Sundar Nursery. It's called Humayun Museum, but it looks at the history of the Mughal Sultanate. It has a very nice section that is dedicated entirely to the Sufi influence on the Mughals and hence on Delhi. Because I think the Nizamuddin Dargah was once a cultural center, and a lot of our Sultanate Mughal rulers were in interaction with the Sufi tradition. So it underlies Delhi. The reason why Chirag Delhi is called Chirag Delhi is because of Nizamuddin, like a story. Like I'll not go into that.
You can.
But no, it's fine. It's this. I don't remember the nuances of that correctly, but Nizamuddin Aulia was in Delhi at that point of time, and some construction was going on that the Sultan was opposing, like the ruler of Delhi. So his deputy, who was overseeing the construction, Nizamuddin Aulia's deputy who was overseeing the construction, would get into altercations with the ruler कि ये करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए, because rulers were always threatened by the command that this religious leader or Sufi leader has over the masses. Like the public likes him more than they like the ruler. So the king used to do like various things, like आके इनके construction तोड़ दी. Then one time they banned them from working in the day, like दिन में construction नहीं करनी. So these guys started working at night. Then the king's men came and extinguished all of their lamps and took away all their oil कि हम तुम्हें जलाने नहीं देंगे, like नहीं करना. So then there's the story of how Nizamuddin Aulia told his deputy that अब तुम पानी डालो lamps में और पानी के दिए जलेंगे एंड उसमें हम कंस्ट्रक्शन डालेंगे एंड द स्टोरी गोज दैट दे बर्nt. So that guy who's the deputy whose name I'm forgetting came to be known as Chirag-e-Dilli because the lamp of Delhi.
Wow.
So then it became Chirag-Dilli, which is now a flyover. And a place where there's so much jam, like all the time. You go through that every single day. Like Hauz Khas, it's Alauddin Khilji's personal like bathing spot. It's the Hauz Khas means royal lake or like special lake because it was built by a ruler. So you can go there on a date, but you're in history. So it excites me so much. It's so fun for me to realize that I'm there and there's places where so many other people have walked. I love and I've really been getting into the more mystical side of Delhi, which is why I mentioned the Sufi wo specifically. But I'm also making my way through Eric Chopra's new book, which is about ghosts of Delhi in a way, but not specific, just like ghosts the way we think of them, but all like haunting or like mystical, spiritual stuff. So yeah, I'm enjoying that because Delhi has some very interesting ghosty stories also going on. I'm talking on and on about this. I could go on forever, honestly, Charu. But yeah, like, I'm interested in so many things. I have so much fun.
This.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying this.
I like everything. That's why, I could put culture critic as like my title, specifically when I was doing a lot of what was culture criticism, I think, for a lot of newspapers and magazines. But I don't want to do that because I think I'm not a critic. I'm a fan of everything. Like I don't start unbiasedly. Even if I had to review something, I've seen your book reviews and I want to like I start from a point of मुझे अच्छा लगता है by default. I've not opened it yet, I've not watched it yet, I've not been there yet, but I like it. So a bad experience will take me down a notch, but my baseline is I'm interested and I'm so in.
Yeah, I think what should be de-influenced is making this thing I am a hater uncool. Yeah, please इसको
पता नहीं थोड़े
अपना personality मत बनाओ I am a hater. It's not very nice to be a hater.
हाँ, I think चीजें नापसंद करना बहुत easy होता है.
Yeah.
कुछ भी ढूंढ लो नहीं like करने के लिए. And you can use fancy language to talk about it. I'm not saying all critique is not important.
Yeah.
It is, and it so is. But I feel like making a case for what you like and why you like it is so much harder sometimes.
Very true.
Because when you like something, it can be so personal for no reason. Like, I have this section in my book and we are circling back to this, but I talk about it where I say that हमारी favorite movie sometimes कोई ऐसे 10 साल पुरानी 3-star movie होती है. Try explaining to someone why that is, because maybe it found you at the right time and you were going through something at that movie which was randomly on Romedy now at that point of time. Just echoed that and that's now your favorite movie. But it's so hard to explain logically why you like things.
Very true.
Why you don't like things, there's always like a way to, I think, express it. Then if people don't agree with you or agree with you, is a whole different thing. But I think the logical thinking of like is so much harder than dislike.
Yes, very, very well said. Thank you so much, Riya, for coming here. It was a delight to talk to you. And also some Chalchitra merch for you.
I get merch. Wow, how cute. No, I love this. I love your logo, by the way.
Yeah,
I think
it's
so
a pretty
nice.
tote bag.
Yeah, yeah. I love
ये भी
that.
वही है, what's in my tote.
What's in my हाँ,
See,
what
मैं
is in this
चलचित्र का
tote?
bag लेके घूम रही हूँ।
अभी मैं जाऊंगी ना JLF में तो ओनियन अभी इससे पहले मेरे पास एक बुक स्टोर टोट था जो सबके पास होता है यहाँ पे तो लेकिन अब मेरे पास चलचित्र का टोट है.
Nice.
Signaling. Let's go.
I'm a cinephile now.
Maybe men will accept me even when I tell them I have only watched one Quentin Tarantino movie.